Miami quarterback Cam Ward is the favorite to go first overall right now, minus 155. Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter, that was the highlight coming back from break, courtesy of NBC and Peacock and Noah Eagle. Carter, plus 125. And Carter has gotten bet, by the way, from yesterday to today. Remember, yesterday we did this Carter about plus 150. So that's moved 30 cents towards Abdul Carter. But Cam Ward's still the favorite right now at minus 155. And Carter took a lot of equity away from Travis Hunter. Colorado's Travis Hunter now sitting at plus 700. So what's interesting about this, the fact that Ward is minus 155, is that we have now seen in the past couple days 3 prominent NFL draft analysts. 3 release mock drafts. ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr., NFL Media's Daniel Jeremiah, and Todd McShay, who's now back doing work with The Ringer. I love Todd McShay being back and doing NFL draft work. McShay, obviously one of the greats. All 3 releasing mock drafts over the past 5 days, let's call it. All 3, including Kiper, who dropped his mock draft earlier today on Tuesday, have the Titans taking Abdul Carter first overall. So that probably explains some of the move, right? And we're way early in this. So much can happen. Just it's February 25th. Just because he's number 1 in mock drafts now, he could go 10th. He won't, but I'm just saying, crazy things can and will happen. Just that I think that's really interesting, right? That Ward's minus 155, but all the prominent NFL analysts right now have Carter going first overall. Another interesting note, ESPN's Adam Schefter tweeting out a video today where in the caption of the video on Twitter, he writes, what's emerging, and I'm paraphrasing here, what's emerging as a really likely scenario for the NFL draft is Cleveland taking a quarterback at second overall, right? Because Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles. Literally, it's like an SNL skit, twice in 3 days, basically. Probably going to be out next season. So presumably Cleveland would take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, whatever, a quarterback with the second overall pick. Titans GM Mike Borgonzi, a good Paisan, and head coach Brian Callahan, speaking at the scouting combine today, both they keep using the term generational talent, and that there were some generational talents in the draft, and they're not going to pass on a generational talent. This will be the first time I say this of this NFL offseason. It will not even be close to the last time I say it. This time right now is commonly referred to in NFL circles as lying season. And what's always said is, how do you know an NFL coach or executive is lying? When he or she opens their mouth. So it's lying season. So you should never take what a coach or GM, especially one that could be posturing for a trade, never take what they say at face value. Maybe they're telling the truth, but you should always consider the very real possibility that they're lying. So when Borgonzi and Callahan are saying, well, we're not going to pass on a generational talent, to me, what's the translation of that? Picks for sale. And we're trying to drive the price up maybe for the first overall pick in the draft. And if you couple that, and not that Schefter has to be right, just that he wrote, it seemed like with confidence, that the Browns want a quarterback, it seems to now be developing into, if you're the Giants at 3, the Raiders at 6, the Jets at 7, a quarterback-needy team, and you've identified, I want one of the Ward, Sanders, whoever it is, you probably have to go leapfrog Cleveland. And you probably have to go to number 1 to get that quarterback, the quarterback of your choosing. So I think what we all, as bettors, have to try and figure out, we don't have to figure it out right now. We can wait to see. We don't have to bet it now. We can bet it at any point, right, leading up until the first rounds of the draft. What do you think Tennessee's going to do? Would Tennessee take a quarterback? Is that what Tennessee's going to do? Is Tennessee just going to stand pat and take, because if there is a generational player, you'd think that it's Carter or Travis Hunter. Abdul Carter makes way more sense for a defense that finished third to last in sacks last year, only 32 sacks last year for the Tennessee Titans. So is that what they're going to do? Or do we feel like the Giants or the Jets? Or how about the Raiders? Their new GM, John Spytek, saying today in Indianapolis that they would not rule out a trade up for a quarterback in the draft. Maybe the Raiders go up to 1 to select a quarterback here, year 1, under Pete Carroll. My opinion, and I'm fascinated to get Femi's opinion on this, which we will in a second. We'll talk number 1, we'll talk Stafford, and more. Do you think the price, and for our listeners and viewers, Do you think that the pricing is correct right now? Ward minus 155, Carter plus 120. Do you think they should be closer to the same price? Should Carter have a minus next to his name? I kind of think we're operating in the right range at this point. Maybe the prices should be a little closer together. But again, February 25th. Just trying to get a gauge on this and where we stand right now. All very interesting news coming out of Indianapolis, Indiana. You bet terrific football Tuesday. Femi joins me now. What do you think about this, buddy? The number one overall pick in the draft.
I love it. I think that the prices should actually be a little bit further apart. That's my thought process.
So Ward or Carter?
I think Ward should be like a slightly bigger favorite. And like Carter, instead of being like plus 125, I think he should be like, I don't know, like plus 180 or so in that range. I just can't get past it. And this is like the dangers of betting the NFL draft. And like one of the things that like we have to all keep in mind, whether it's Nick, me, or the listener, the viewer, whoever, like you can't put in your own personal opinion with this stuff. But I think early on, you do have to sort of go through some of like your old like NFL philosophies
but talk about that.
And your own personal logic.
I really want you to just expand on that for a second because like you've listened to the show for long enough. Like you know what our philosophy is. Just like your opinion can be right that the Jets should take a quarterback. But if all the information says the Jets are taking a wide receiver instead, right, you should not go with your opinion. You should go with what the information says, right? Because it's not a game. This is not a game that's being played. Like you either have the answer or you don't.
100%. Like if the team, like it doesn't matter how stupid it is. Like if you like the Falcons picking Michael Penix Jr. after paying Kirk Cousins all that money. Like nobody expected him to take a quarterback 8th overall. Doesn't matter how crazy it might seem to you. But if the team is going to do it, that's what you should be betting. You should be betting what you think the team will do, not what you would personally do if you were the general manager, in this instance, of the Tennessee Titans. So, like, that's kind of the tricky part about betting the draft, especially early on. I think late in the process, we all figure that out once things start to move and once we start to get a little bit more concrete information. But right now, when it's still during lying season, like Nick mentioned here, and lying season just kicked off today with all the people speaking, like, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. And that's where, for me, like, I still think this is a situation to where whoever's picking number one, and that's how I want to preface this, whoever's picking number one, because it doesn't have to be Tennessee, I think they're going to go with the quarterback. Like these teams are quarterback needy, and the quarterback is how you change the fortunes of your franchise. So right now, I would think that someone like Cam Ward should be at least a little bit shorter of a price, like minus 170, minus 175 in that range versus being like minus 155. In fact, I still think, call me crazy, I'm on this island by myself. Nobody else is on this island. I don't think Shedeur should be ruled out right now to be number one overall. Like, what if a team falls in love and says, you know what, we love Shedeur Sanders. We think he's the best quarterback in this draft. Why wouldn't they take him first overall and move up? Like, why would they take the chance of like, oh, let's just wait for him at 3 or let's wait for him at 6 or at 7? Like, you're going to go up there and try to get your guy, especially if you think Tennessee is putting this thing up for sale. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world at 11-1 that Shedeur Sanders could be the guy. Like, this is operating with having no inside information, just kind of like trying to make educated guesses here. But I still think that a quarterback's going 1. Look at the team that's picking 2 right now, Nick, the Cleveland Browns. They just had Myles Garrett on their roster, Defensive Player of the Year, best defender in the league. They won 3 games. Like Abdul Carter could be the next Myles Garrett. That's not going to move the needle in terms of changing the fortunes of your franchise. If you're picking that high,
aren't you putting your opinion into this a little bit though, like we just talked about?
I am a little bit, definitely. That's what I'm saying. I'm having the tricky part right now, early in the process. Like the later we get into the process, the more I remove my opinion. But I still think we're early enough to right now. Like you can still have a little bit of your opinion in this process, and like logically thinking about it. It doesn't make sense to be like, oh, I like the quarterback at 6, but I would never take him at 1. Like what? Like, does that make any sense? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, at least saying that out loud. So I still think that right now the quarterback should be the favorite outcome. It is the favorite outcome, but I don't think it's favored enough, whether it's Cam Ward or a long shot like Shedeur Sanders, based on how these teams feel about these quarterbacks, because we still don't even know that. I think a lot of it is still a lot of these insiders and the NFL draft analysts using their own personal rankings to go out there and fill out their mock drafts.
And, just the team that you root for, Jerry Jones had an interesting quote today because they're going to let Trey Lance walk in free agency. And he even said, there are sometimes we have a 4th-round grade on a quarterback, which is not to say like they're right or wrong. And all these quarterbacks go way earlier than expected, to Femi's point. Now, I don't know if I agree with you on the quarterback stuff in general, just that like a team is going to take a quarterback first overall. And I like Femi's not guaranteeing that. He's even prefacing it by saying that's his opinion right now. I don't know if I agree with that. just because from what we understand about these quarterbacks, and it's really early, none of them seem to be like a Caleb Williams or a Jaden Daniels or even a Drake May, like from last year. But you said something that I thought was really interesting, and I have a hard time disagreeing with it. Because the whole college football season, the thought was that like Shador and Cam Ward were kind of equal, and we didn't know who like the quarterback that was like the preferred quarterback was going to be in the NFL draft between the two. And it feels like Cam Ward has been propped up here, and maybe it is Cam Ward. And maybe Ward is the preferred quarterback of all these teams. He's like number one on every single board. But it does feel like a little early to be saying that it's just Cam Ward, and that's the end of it here. Where if it's a quarterback and you're out there listening or watching and you feel like it's going to be a quarterback and news starts to trickle out that there's going to be a quarterback taken number one or there's a trade up to number one, and no one's trading up to take Abdul Carter first overall. If you're trading up to one, you're trading up to take a quarterback. Like, why does it have to be Cam Ward? So I'm putting words in your mouth right now, so you can feel free to correct me. So if you think Cam Ward should be a bigger favorite right now than he is, then should you be betting Shedeur Sanders at the price he's at right now?
I have bet Shedeur Sanders. I bet him at 10-1 a couple of weeks ago to be the first overall pick. Like, I just think that like Shedeur, it just feels like we're just like automatically ruling him out when we don't know how the teams the team haven't even met with Shedeur. I guess some of them met with him during the Shrine Bowl or whatever, like when he did those interviews. But like the formal combine interviews, those are happening like tonight and tomorrow and all that stuff. Like, this is very early in this process. And this is the same draft process from a betting standpoint where everybody said that, oh, CJ Stroud's going to go number one overall. All it took was Carolina being like, you know what, actually, we like Bryce Young. And then it ended up being Bryce Young.
It was David Tepper's wife.
Yeah, she did. Which, I mean, who knows? Maybe she's gonna be right in the long run. Maybe she was just early on this Bryce Young thing. But like, it's so early in the process that I don't know why the market is anointing Cam Ward as the guy. Even not just the betting market, but all the draft analysts as well. Like, we don't know how the teams feel about him.